Hello, dear friends, in the social sermon on this fourth Sunday of Lent. There are moments in life when we look, but we actually don't really see. Our eyes work, it seems, perfectly well, yet something inside of us remains blind still. And then something happens, an experience, a word from somebody, a moment of grace, and suddenly we begin to see what was always there and yet never seen. This is exactly what the readings of this Sunday are talking about, learning how to see truly. And in the early church, this Sunday was part of the final preparation for baptism. Baptism itself was called illumination, kind of enlightenment. It was believed that when a person is baptized, they receive new eyes, not just physical eyes, but the eyes of the heart. And the question for us today is very simple. Do I really see? So let us begin with the first reading taken from the first book of Samuel. Samuel is sent by God to choose the next king of Israel. One by one, the sons of Jesse pass before him. The first son looks very impressive, tall, strong, exactly what one would expect from a future king. And Samuel the prophet is ready to choose him immediately. But God stops the prophet and says something extraordinary. He says, "The Lord does not see as a man sees. Man looks at appearances, but the Lord looks at the heart." And that sentence changes everything, because we usually judge also by what is visible: strength, influence, reputation, success. But God sees very much differently. God looks at the heart. And that is why the chosen one is not the impressive older brother, but David, the youngest son, the shepherd boy whom no one expected. Already here we see a great spiritual lesson for us, that God often works in ways we do not immediately recognize. And learning to see as God sees is part of the journey of our faith. And St. Paul continues this very theme in the second reading from the letter to the Ephesians. He writes something very strong as well. Once you were darkness, and now you are light in the Lord. And notice that St. Paul does not say we lived in darkness. He says we were darkness. But through Christ we have become light. And when the light of Christ shines on our lives, things also begin to look very much different. Actions that once seemed normal suddenly appear to be empty, destructive, even sinful. That is why St. Paul says that the fruit of light is goodness, justice, truth. So faith changes the way we see reality around us. All of this prepares us for the gospel, one of the most beautiful stories of the Gospel of St. John. There, Jesus meets a man who has been blind from the very birth. He places mud on his eyes and tells him to wash in the pool of Siloam. The man obeys, and suddenly he can see again. But the real miracle is not only the healing of his physical eyes. The real miracle is the journey of faith that follows. Because at first, when people ask him about Jesus, he says only, "Well, the man called Jesus healed me." Later, he calls Jesus a prophet. And later still, he says Jesus must be a man from God. And finally, when Jesus reveals fully himself, the man is able to say, "Lord, I believe." So his physical sight leads to spiritual sight. But something else happens at the same time as well. You see, the Pharisees, the religious experts, they react in the very opposite way. At the first, they are curious. Then they ask questions. And slowly their hearts close. They become certain that Jesus cannot be from God. And finally, they reject him completely. So the man born blind moves from darkness to faith, while those who think they truly see, they become actually blind spiritually. And that is why Jesus says at the end of the Gospel, I came into this world so that those who do not see may see, and those who see may become blind. So Jesus brings light. What we do with that light depends on us. And here is the question for us this Fourth Sunday of Lent. A Christian is someone who sees very differently, not because we are smarter, but because we look at life from the perspective of eternity. That's the key. We begin to see what truly matters, but we must also be careful. We must avoid the attitude of the Pharisees, the belief that we already see everything perfectly. And we must avoid also the attitude of the blind man's parents, who prefer safety and neutrality instead of courage. And faith cannot remain hidden forever. Sooner or later, we must answer the same question Jesus asks the healed man. Do you believe in the Son of Man? And perhaps our answer this Fourth Sunday of Lent can be simple and humble. Lord, yes, I do believe. Because the miracle of faith always begins the very same way, when a person can finally say, now I can see. Thank you for listening to this Sunday sermon, and if you would like to receive it in a digital newsletter way, please visit my website www.thesocialsermon.com. God bless you.